we have Joel Davey to start, and he's playing Rafal Dominiczak, who, as you can see, has expert status. Joel has actually just got his second year of 5 in his quest to become an expert himself. It's absolutely grueling task, unenviable. There were times last year where Joel was worried he might not achieve that. So for those who don't know, you need 5 years. I believe it's quite a complicated system. I think it's 5 years consecutively of a 170 plus rating. So Joel has done that 2 years in a row. Raf, as you can see, will have done that in the past. And it is Joel to begin. And I don't mind being straight with viewers. Yesterday, I personally had some tech issues, which were disappointing. But I did say to our production team, if I can commentate one game, it would be for Joel, because he's a good friend of mine. He's quite entertaining to watch. I don't think you mind me saying that he wears his heart on his sleeve when he plays Scrabble. He's quite an expressive player. I would say much more so than Raf. So we've got an interesting dynamic here as well. And it's Joel to go first. He's lining up kaput with a C, which I'm not sure whether that's good, but then puts down Jut pretty swiftly. That looks fine. Keeping a nice leave. And an absolutely phenomenal opening rack for Rafal. You can see he's already lined up Misgive, or possibly Missive. Always encouraging to have a blank on your opening rack of the day. Give you that little boost that you might need, especially if you've not slept well. Oftentimes at these tournaments, we stay up late to socialize, and the anticipation and the excitement are such that we don't get the sleep we need to really function on fire on all cylinders as we need. So I'll need the production team to tell me what the blank is here. I think I heard Raf say that as an S, but we will get that confirmed. Yes, it is indeed. So a lovely opening play from Raf, playing Missive for 82. And we move back to Joel, who's lumbered with just the one vowel in what could otherwise be quite a prominent rack. He's duplicated his. He's got. So again, for viewers who don't know, the way we analyze Scrabble games is using a computer program called Quackle. So oftentimes, just in the back end, I'm considering the player's moves in there. Joel has gone with that, which does a lot of what he needs. It creates an S lane that he doesn't yet hold to give some volley. He's going to need, seeing a bingo behind, and unduplicates that N. Moving back over to Ralph for his post-bingo draw. Bit of a clunky rack, but he's got ways of quite easily sorting this out. Nothing overly scory though. He's probably not going to be scoring over 20 points in this turn. He's lined up Egoism, which is nice, turns over a lot of tiles. actually scores 30 points. So I stand corrected on that previous statement. If he spots the E front hook on missive, that is. I wonder whether he played missive with that front hook in mind. E missive. That would have been a very interesting decision if that was in his thinking during that. Or alternatively, maybe he's just going to stick an S on the end of Prent, which would also score well and turn over tiles and keep the pressure on Joel. Rafal taking his time on this move. It is quite an awkward rack. Not a whole lot of synergy in the letters he's drawn. So just going back to Quackle, its favourite play at the moment is utilising the O front hook on missive as well. Just playing Geo 16 GIO. Sets up the S that Raf is holding on that double word square. Cleans up his rack nicely, keeps a nice leave of EIMS. Alternatively, in a similar spot, he could get rid of his M and hold the G playing moi, MOI, for 6 more points. Of course, that's all predicated on Raf seeing the O front hook for missive. So yeah, it really would be interesting. As I said, when he played that opening bingo, was he thinking of the E front hook and indeed the O? And of course, is Joel going to pick up on those as well? So Raf going a completely different route, setting up a new S lane with Jig, keeping a fairly nice rack given that it wasn't overly nice to begin with. So he's played Jig for just 12. Taken quite a point sacrifice, but again, maybe he's not yet spotted those 2 front hooks that he had available to him on missive. And we move back to Joel. And Joel, despite having what looks like quite a clunky rack, has 1 and 1 only bingo available to him. We'll see whether the chat and the audience can find that out. And that's absolutely phenomenal. It's not taking Joel much time at all to find Canoe Man for 64 to fire himself right back into this game. Taking a slight lead, of course, Raf is on turn. And in fact, we do see that Raf himself is now drawn into a bingo. He's got a few options available to him yet. I won't say any of them. I'll see whether you in the chat can find them. And if you want to join in the chat on YouTube, by the way, simply subscribe to our channel, ABSP Tournament Scrabble UK. It really helps us out if you do that. And Raf has found a truly, truly phenomenal play. This is the kind of play you dream of making on the stream. Wow. Unbelievable. A 7-tile overlap for Miss Dunn, hooking omissive for 99 points. What can you even say to that? That is a truly outstanding play. Yes, well done, Raf. And you may not have heard that in the audience, but you see Joel with his hands on his head saying, that's remarkable. Absolutely incredible. Fantastic stuff. Well done, Raf. And the speed with which he put that down as well, so impressive. Good Lord. I still can't get over the speed with which Raf put that down. I barely had time to look at all the options available to him when he just plonked that down. A 7-tile overlap. Very cool that he didn't really react to it himself as well. He knew he's on stream. He knows he needs to look cool. Just puts down a 7-tile overlap, hooking a 9, an 8, sorry, with omissive, like it means nothing to him. Truly, truly outstanding play. And this is a caliber of player that we've got at the UK Open, folks, as well. Players just having a settling the score there. There's quite a lot of scoring to be added up there. Joel actually turning to his right and saying to the production team, "Do you guys agree with that score?" And in the room, they're saying, "Well, we can't help you," which Joel knows. So I think he's slightly flustered by that. You see him shaking his head. But it really is early days. Joel doesn't need to be concerned overly yet. He's only 87 behind, with most of the game still to go. And he's got some scoring options available to him, where he can get rid of most of his problem tiles. He's lined up a Boyle somewhere, which is a lovely 5. Not quite seeing where he might want to be putting that. I guess above misdone, getting the B going in both directions on that double word. Some alternative options he's got available are glow by for 32, again above misdone, leaving AF, or flob, which I would probably be tempted by, getting rid of those two clunkiest tiles in the F and the B. That is his highest scoring play, and that's getting the F in both directions. So he's gone with a similar play of flog, holding the B rather than the G. Very interesting choice. I'll be intrigued as to the thinking behind that. Very generally speaking, I guess you could say the G is a slightly more bingo-y tile, but I've no doubt that Joel's got his reasons there. And there's probably not a whole lot between those, to be honest. Maybe he prefers the G, creating the volatility in the middle of that triple lane rather than the B. And very quickly, Raf coming down with something of a hand blow for 45, which puts him exactly 100 points ahead. Probably not much to think about for him there. And I'm afraid to say Joel's rack is now deteriorating. He's drawn into the dreaded U combination. But it's positions like this that really show the caliber and the mental fortitude of a player. He's certainly not down by any means. Down and out, I should say. He's only 100 behind. There's still a blank out. There's still a couple of S's for that jig lane that Raf created earlier in the game. So let's see what he comes up with. In terms of score and leave, it looks like Joel's best play just about is for 21 points, playing bagwig to the G and jig, which is a word I'm sure he will know. But he's also lined up bag it through the G, which does keep UW, which is very clunky. But then he would be scoring a lot more points, turning over more tiles. Going looking for that second blank. Unbeknownst to him, of course, we do see that Raf has drawn into it, which really does place him as the favourite at this point in the game, if he weren't already. Lovely bit of word knowledge with Joel lining up Baggett. Which I thought might be some archaic past tense of a verb. It's actually a noun meaning a female salmon, so it does take an S, not that that's particularly relevant here. It's just good word knowledge. He's now lined up Whitgat through the T inputs. That would score 20 points, leaving BU. The problem being it does take out a nice 8s lane through that T. And Joel really needs as much space left open on this board as possible. He needs maximum volatility. But he's going with it. He's going with it. He's tripling the W, turning over tiles. There were some plays available that kept that T lane open and perhaps even created a bit more space for 8s. But it's a perfectly reasonable move. And moving back to Raf, once again, as I said, he's drawn into that second blank. However, with just the one vowel, he doesn't actually have a bingo available to him this turn. But when you have a rack like this and a lead like this, pretty much anything you do is going to leave you in an exceptionally strong position next turn. And given the pool and given his leave, he's probably going to be bingoing next turn. Raf, of course, will be paying due diligence to the available floaters, probably most notably that O in flog, given his lack of vowels. Probably going to take some time. In fact, we're halfway through the game now in terms of tiles played, so Raf has a lot of time to just consider his options here. Probably can't read a whole lot of anything into Joel's play of Whitgat, scoring 20 and taking out that lane down the bottom through the T. So looking at Quackle, its favourite play is actually just Vid for 7 points through the I in omissive. And as far as I can tell, that's just a pure holding play, as we would say, just to score some points, get rid of his some of his clunky tiles, especially that V, and just hold an exceptionally strong leave to almost certainly bingo next turn, given the fact that there are 2 S lanes on the board with jigs and prents. Maybe he would like to take out or at least obstruct that G that Joel has placed in the triple lane, given that at this stage in the game, that's Raf's likeliest route to losing this game, I guess. But he doesn't have any great ways of really using that up, from what I can see. So for one more turn at least, it looks like that G is probably going to remain unobstructed. Although at the end of the day, in 4th position in the triple lane, it's not a huge concern to him, especially as he holds the second blank. We're probably going to see Raf score quite low this turn. He does have a few scoring plays available, but they unnecessarily use up his S, which I don't think he wants to do here. No real need. So yeah, a similar idea. He's simply playing Covin for 12, dumping off the C and the V, holding DS blank. Ever so slightly more volatile leave there, but still in a commanding position. And we move back to Joel, who's got a clunky rack, but he's got scoring plays available to him. The turnover tiles allow him to go hunting for that second blank that he so desperately needs. And he's found one of those in Blight, scoring 36 and holding that K for score next turn, which you really may need en route to finding a bingo of his own. So nice play there from Joel. And we wait to see what Raf has drawn. So we see that Raf has duplicated his R and drawn into the X as well. So again, some heavy scoring plays available here for Raf. The standout, quite obvious plays, simply dumping the X on that tailor-made spot between puts and Whitgat for 34. I'm quite confident Raf is going to do that soon. And yeah, there we go. Not a whole lot to think about there. 34 points presented to him on a plotter, keeping a strong leave, and we move back to Joel, whose rack is going in the right direction. He's only 90 behind, so he's not absolutely down and out yet. Although you have to think that the moment Raf bingos with that blank, it probably is curtains for Joel. He's got some interesting plays available, and he's found a fantastic play of Blighter for 42, playing off only 2 tiles, so slowing the process of the game, giving himself time to get back into it. Good word knowledge on display there, and creating a 7s lane down from side lapping either the E or the R. So that is a fantastic play from Joel, 42 points. At the end of the day, the leave was never going to be very good from that rack. So very impressed with that from Joel. And we move back over to Raf, who will all but certainly be bingoing on this turn. He's got an absolute trove to choose from, so it really is just a case of which one he prefers for how it shapes the board. Just as a quick side note for the audience, Blighter has quite a fun anagram as well, which you might want to have a look for. Although it is really one of those words where you either know it or you don't. I'll certainly say it's not one that I was familiar with. That would be Thurblig, a unit of work for quantifying industrial operations. So just watch the body language here from Joel. He sees the blank, and he knows he's in a lot of trouble here at this point. I believe that's going to be a T from Raf, making daughters. Yeah, that's a T. And that puts him 110 points ahead. And meanwhile, Joel sitting on really quite an unpleasant rack at this stage. Although he has lined up a cappy, which he had before Raf even put down his 7, for 50 points, which is an absolutely fantastic find, utilising that K. As I said earlier, when he played Blight, holding the K, this is the kind of value you need to get out of those premium tiles when you're behind. It's not all about bingoing, it's also about finding the space on the board to maximize the value of those heavier letters. And Joel has done just that, so he's not down that yet by any stretch. Gets himself within 60 points, although of course Raf is on 10. Just the one vowel for his post-bingo draw. But he's going to be absolutely fine working through this rack. Got some scoring options available to him. And meanwhile, just projecting forward slightly to Joel after Okapi, he's got a comically bad rack. I'm quite sure we're going to be seeing him change. 7 vowels, that's quite a lot of vowels to have on your rack, I will admit. It's not really what you want to see when you're on stream and battling with all your wits for some miraculous way back into the game. Not a whole lot Joel is going to be able to do with that, even a player of his caliber. But meanwhile, staying with Raf, Quackle's favourite player here is the lovely Chile, down from the C, keeping BFR, 426. Don't necessarily recommend looking up the definition of that word, but it is quite interesting. Probably not the easiest to find as well. Meanwhile, it looks like he's actually lining up 4 by. Which does take an E on the end, which he's holding, and I'm sure he knows that. So that is a lovely find, a lovely play. And I was just double checking that myself. It is indeed 4 by, not 4B, because this is an old Scottish word for besides, 4 by. So Raf's put it on the board. He's just having to think about it before he hits his clock. I wonder what the consideration is here. Okay, yeah, fine. He's just thinking about attacking the Eon now. Interesting decision. What I'm going to do, I'm going to isolate just those 2 moves and run them against each other. So Quackle agrees Raf's there to attack the Eon for 2 points and taking that possibility away from Joel. I guess it's because the bag is vowel heavy. Raf knows that he's probably drawing into more vowels. Although I see it seems most of those vowels are actually on his opponent's rack. He has drawn into the Q, but he still has just 1 vowel. Moving to Joel with this utterly unenviable rack. He has identified that he's got 22 points available through the V in omissive, playing Uvia, or its anagram Uve. Quackle does prefer exchanging here, but it's understandable that he'd want to get the points. Quite hard to turn down 22, leaving 4 vowels. The bag is 50-50 from his point of view in terms of vowel consonants. He's looking for a lucky draw, and he doesn't want to let that deficit go further. So an understandable decision there from Joel. We move back to Raf, who, as I said, has drawn into the queue. And quite quickly, he's simply dumped that off the chin at the top and actually blocking up some availability to Joel to open the board further with the A or O front hook on Ma. So this isn't a purely dumping play. It does actually achieve stuff for Raf. He did have some other options available to him, like F-fill, or E-fill, I should probably say, through the wine 4-by. It did hold the cue, probably unnecessarily, and as I said, this really blocks up the board when he's already in a very commanding position, 80 points ahead. So I like this play from Raf. And Joel, bless him, he's drawn 3 more vowels to go with his 4 vowels. Are we going to see an exchange this turn? It looks like his only viable alternative would be to play, well, to find something that is extremely hard. Anyway, I would be absolutely blown away if Joel finds this. He's got ID8 through DE and then T going down the middle of the board, making AI and covines. But even then, that is leaving 4 vowels. I guess his only other alternative was what he's found here of VIA for 24. Similar idea to UVIA, simply at this point just trying to plow through this relentless onslaught of vowels and just get some kind of miracle draw that allows him to do something with this increasingly dead board. But Joel has drawn into more vowels and a quasi-vowel with the Y, so not quite what you want to see. You see him laughing, shaking his head, looking at the production team over to his right. He knows that this is really quite remarkably bad luck. Moving back to Raf, still with just the 1 vowel because Joel seems to be hoarding absolutely every vowel remaining in the bag. And again, rapidly, Raf has found Quackle's favourite option and his high scoring option of Hell, leaving RST as well. Just does absolutely everything he needs. Again, honestly, probably not that much to think about. And we will tell, and with only 4 tiles left in the bag, Joel is actually now unable anyway to exchange. And this time he's got nothing north of 16 points available to him. Joel's highest scoring play here is IE, AIYEE, onto that EE that Raf has just created. But the problem with that, of course, is it places the A directly below the double letter square. And it will just almost invariably give back more points than it's worth, especially with the W being out and unseen to Joel. He's 90 points behind. According to Quackle Simulation, his top move has a winning percentage of just 0.03%. And honestly, I think even that might be slightly optimistic. But really, I mean, what, from his point of view, what is Joel possibly trying to achieve here? I guess playing off 3 tiles, leaving 1 in the bag to leave some element of doubt for his opponent and draw into some kind of miracle bingo to go out with. I guess either perhaps with the W so he can score, or at least leaving the W on his opponent's rack for count back. But honestly, at this stage, it's really just pure speculation. That being said, these top players always try to optimize their end game. Some of you in the audience may not know that the tiebreaker in Scrabble is spread. So you can see, for example, the players' standings going into this game. They've got their win-loss both on 4-3, but then their placement is decided on spread. So you can think of that like goal difference in football. It's simply the difference between the points that you've scored over the span of the tournament versus how many you've conceded. And you can have a positive or negative spread, as we see with these two players respectively. And it really isn't unknown at all for placement in a tournament in critical positions, even in the prize-winning positions right at the top, to be decided by single digits of spread. For example, in the A division, which we are focusing on with this tournament, if your word is unsuccessfully challenged, i.e. if you put down a word that is allowed and your opponent challenges it and it stays on the board, you get 5 extra points. You can win or lose a game based on that alone, and it has been known that players have had their entire placement decided by such a seemingly inconspicuous decision at the time. So all of that is to say, in a very roundabout way, that Joel will still be trying to optimize this pre-end game, because you simply never know when those spread points really are going to matter. And in that vein, he's found one of Quackle's favourite options of Olio for 9. It keeps triple A, which he won't be too happy with. But he is holding the Y. Maybe he'll be able to milk some kind of score out of that in what will probably be his final move of the game. And he has played off 3 tiles, so his opponent can't have total knowledge of what is on Joel's rack. Moving back over to Raf. It looks like just about Quackle's favourite option here is Due, D-U-E, side-lapping daughters, leaving E-R-S-T. Very strong leave, which would likely enable him to go out next move with whatever tile he draws from the bag. However, an alternative, a way of clinching this victory with a flourish, is through that DE and T, again, which we saw earlier that Joel could have played with, making ID8. Raf can make a 7-letter word through that, using up his D-U-T-E, leaving E-R-S, of dudette, a female dude. Imagine if that came down. That would be quite the finish for the game. For Raf, who, lest we forget, scored 99 points early doors in this game with a 7-tile overlap, including hooking to make an 8-letter word separately. Like it meant absolutely nothing to him, to his opponent's chagrin. That was, of course, misdone above Joel's Canoe Man, which Joel had just played to get himself back into the game, and then he sees that come down. Really quite a spectacular series of moves that was. And Raf has gone ahead and played Dyer through the I in omissive. For 15 points, leaving ESTU. And the final letter out the bag for him is an E, which purely on face value looks like it might be quite hard to go out with in one. So maybe Joel will get 2 turns after all. Almost every option available to Joel here leaves duplicate A. Quackle's top move is Awdl, AWDL, down to the L in flog. A lovely Welsh word meaning an ode, like a poem. Awdl. Very, very pleasing word. Alternatively, he's got Fenny, so simply sticking his NY on the end of Fen, although that leaves triple W, but then that does give him the option on his final turn of playing Dwal, DWAAL, onto the L in Blighter, which would be a really sublime 2-turn outplay from Joel. He's gone and played Yawl, YAWL, which was his high scoring play. Nice find there. And as I suspected, Raf doesn't have any way of going out this turn. By which I mean, Raf has no way of ending the game by using up the remaining tiles on his rack. But he has found his top option and his joint highest scoring option of UEs, like a U-turn for 24. And in fact, likewise, Joel also can't go out with his remaining tiles of AADN. His top move here is a do in the top right, side lapping Blighter. So folks, in sum, as we watch the players work out the remainder of this end game, it's been quite a lopsided affair. In this first game of the morning session on day 2 of the UK Open at 2026, but still lots of interesting plays on show, and of course the absolutely spectacular standout play of Misdone from Rafal Dominiczak, a 7-tile overlap for 99 points, hooking an 8. I'm sure he's looking forward to seeing that back on stream. Enjoys version 2. So that's DAN for Joel for 10 points. And Raf's best option here is to go out with Tech, TEC onto Coven for 12 points. Knowing Joel as I do, he won't be overly demoralised by this. He's played well. I think he will feel the same. He had a spate toward the end of the game of truly abominable racks. I think there were 2 racks in sequence of all vowels. And he's done what he did what he could with what he had. So Raf has opted to not go out, and instead he's found his highest scoring move of T, dumping that T in the bottom left for 18, holding an E. And Joel's highest scoring move now to go out is simply MAA, M-A-A, for just 5 points. underneath Canoe Man. Good to see Joel retaining a sense of humour after this fairly demoralising opening game. Sticking that A next to the Z, making GA, just to test his opponent, just to make sure he's awake. Having a bit of a laugh in the process. And he's found it. He's found his top scoring outplay of Ma. For 5 points, he will collect a point from his opponent, which gives a final score of Joel Davey 380 and Rafal Dominiczak 476. A very well played game from both players. Very entertaining opening game for this Sunday morning session at the UK Open 2026.